that takes people out of a comfort zone.
Every high school generation, there's going to be that kid who doesn't know it yet, but like we're his or hers culture.
We have one common goal, and that's to be the biggest band on earth.
In 16 years, they've been one of the more controversial bands in metal. They've faced death without self-destructing, and now they've returned to the UK. Slipknot are back. Now on their 5th record, Point 5, The Grey Chapter, the band are seeing more success than ever before, playing to another generation of fans on their massive UK arena tour. Slipknot first made waves in the burgeoning new metal scene, but today this is a band also realizing that they're now elder statesmen of metal.
You know, I asked my wife, been married a long time, you're my best friend, I need a fucking straight answer. I'm like, am I, in this life, gonna be known as the clown in Slipknot? And she just looked me right in the face and goes, yes, get over it. And I was like, basically, I guess I just found out that I started a pretty big band, and I'm in a pretty big band.
And it seems like we've influenced so many different bands. I mean, those kids from 5 Seconds of Summer were wearing Slipknot shirts. And I'm like, really? What?
Yeah.
But then, hey, why not?
You're one of those bands that just seems to transcend the genre.
Which is strange when you think about the kind of music that we make. It's relentless. I mean, It is just go, go, go. You know, but that shows you the kind of world we live in. You know, we're an extreme band like us can have such a, I hate to say it, a mainstream appeal. What does that say about society? I was.
While the road eventually led Slipknot to the top of the world, it was long and winding, and there was no shortage of tragedy. This is the tragic history of Slipknot. Things began for the band as innocent as most bands when they're first forming. The ideas were flowing among Sean, Paul, and Joey, who would regularly stay up all night in the gas station where Joey worked overnight to feverishly plan for the future of Slipknot and go over every fine detail of their image and sound. Without a record deal, the three friends knew they had to take a major risk to make this project that they believed in a success. They did whatever it took to come up with a whopping $40,000 to fund their first masterpiece. They entered the studio and worked tirelessly with ruthless aggression on what would eventually become Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat. The project was released on Halloween of 1996 and garnered the band local radio play, but unfortunately, the band didn't receive any attention from labels. Knowing they needed to add some melody to their band, the group recruited the frontman of a local band that was largely unknown. The rock band Stone Sour had been creating buzz among locals, but was also an unsigned local band. Singer Corey Taylor would go on to join Slipknot. With the momentum of onboarding a highly talented young singer, Slipknot reconvened and entered the studio to create a 5-song demo with the goal of attracting a sizable record label that could give them the backing they needed to truly bring their vision to life. While the young band was struggling to make it, their newly minted frontman had also struggled with substance abuse issues and also the pain of being sexually abused as a child. At just the age of 18, Corey Taylor decided to take his own life. He ingested numerous pills and was discovered by his girlfriend's mother, who ultimately rushed him to the hospital, saving his life. Taylor was fed a substance that forced him to vomit up the pills he had taken. He was at the lowest point of his life, one that he no longer felt was worth living. But it was then a chance encounter watching the MTV VMAs. After watching an over-the-top performance by rock titans Faith No More on the award show, Corey Taylor decided to take his life in a musical direction. It was a decision that ultimately saved his life. Despite having found a new passion in life, Corey would later struggle with substance and alcohol-related issues for years. A recurring theme for the young band, Slipknot spent many of their earlier years using substances and abusing alcohol. The decision to enter the studio to record a demo was a wise one. The band eventually landed a $500,000 7-album deal from Roadrunner Records. Their debut album quickly went platinum, and they attracted the attention of MTV and went on their first summer tour on Ozfest in 1999. The 9-member outfit was quickly gaining an international reputation for their extremely aggressive live performances and their signature masks and jumpsuits. While they were very publicly riding the waves of success, members of the band were privately spiraling out of control. The rock star lifestyle became synonymous with Slipknot. Something that far too frequently comes coupled with drugs and alcohol became a regular fixture in the recording studio and backstage at Slipknot shows. During the recording sessions for the band's iconic album Iowa, the band was on a collision course with tragedy, where substance abuse within the band had elevated to an all-time high. In interviews, members of Slipknot have characterized that era of the band as one that was dangerous and could have nearly claimed the lives of multiple members. Joey Jordison described the Iowa recording process as a very dark time for the band. He says, "Some of our strongest and most meaningful songs are on that record, but we were all on drugs and drunk, and it sucked. It's a time I don't like to talk about much because I don't like to condone any drug use whatsoever." Founding bassist Paul Gray echoed that sentiment, saying, "Everyone was partying a bit more than they should have. Going into the record, I started doing lines of coke all the time and writing music doing lines, but I thought everything was cool." Clown said, "It was a disaster because the world got in. Sophomore record, drugs, women, just listening to, 'You guys are gonna be huge. Everybody wants our money, so I hate that album.'" He continued saying, "We almost all died. It was bad. There were chemicals. I was probably the worst." Guitarist Mick Thompson had become increasingly frustrated by the drug use and partying within the band. He became isolated from his bandmates, refusing to take part in the activities. He would stay away from the backstage areas of Slipknot shows to avoid the drugs and women that were frequenting the post-show areas of concert venues. The explosive worldwide success of Slipknot had been too much for some members to handle, and the rock star lifestyle of some members had torn apart friendships that many have had with each other within the band for a number of years. Mick Thompson was candid about his concerns for his bandmates and their hard partying ways. He said, "I was disgusted by those of us that got sucked into that world of sex and drugs. I wasn't hanging out in the dressing room and chasing skirt every night. Sorry, not my thing. I just avoided people. On days off, you'd never see me out of my hotel room. I'd go, okay, now I got about 16 hours where I don't have to hear everyone else's voice. It doesn't say hate in Japanese on my forearm for no reason. I'd rather be alone than be around a bunch of people that I don't care about and don't care about me and are full of shit. I can sit at home and play Xbox, play my guitar, bear off, sleep. What else do you need?" Slipknot continued their explosive growth into their third album, The Subliminal Verses. As their success continued to mount, so did their substance abuse issues. Vocalist Corey Taylor, who took his first drink at just the age of 5, was drinking during most of the day and going to the bar almost every night, prohibiting his ability to effectively write new music for the band, which also was frustrating other members. Joey Jordison said the band struggled for 3 months just to get into the same room and begin recording, largely due to the excessive partying many of his bandmates were involved in. Speaking on his efforts to write music with his bandmate, Joey Jordison said, "I flew down to Los Angeles and arrived expecting to practice. I walk in and Corey says, 'No, I'm going to the Rainbow Bar and Grill.' And Sean says, 'No, I'm working on something else.' I'm like, 'We're not jamming?' So I get a bottle of Jack Daniels and drink myself into oblivion. Then I wake up at 8 o'clock the next day and say, 'Right, let's jam.' And no one wants to. It took us 3 months before everyone came together." Corey Taylor spoke openly on how he was pushing his bandmates away during those dark days. He says, "For the most part, I pushed everybody away. I would drink all day and then go to the bar at night. I was the quintessential lead singer. You were gonna cater to my ego and tell me everything was great, and that's so not who I am. Honestly, I never wanted to be like that. I would keep a bottle of Jack next to my bed every day. Instead of figuring out why I was upset, I just drowned in it. I was cheating on my girl at the time, didn't give a shit. I just wanted to feel something other than terrible. By this point in their careers, Slipknot members seemingly had everything, but quietly behind the scenes, everything was falling apart. Speaking on his experience recording for the Subliminal Verses, bassist Paul Gray said, "I would spend half the time in the bathroom doing drugs. I'd try to play, and I'd fall out of my chair a couple times and fall asleep in the middle of tracking a song. It was pretty bad. I was severely depressed because after Iowa, we were sick of each other and there was so much hate going around. I didn't feel that way. I wasn't mad at anybody, but everyone else was. And I kind of felt like, oh, my family is moving away from each other. I thought the band might break up. I was like, what would I do? This has been one of the best things that had ever happened to me. I've never wanted to leave this. I'd hear someone say, F it, I'm quitting, I'm out. And that would freak me out. I'd be like, what are we gonna do now? Those problems always work themselves out, but I dig myself in deeper holes. And then finally, all that had to stop, or I knew I was going to die. But once you get to a certain point, it's so hard going through withdrawal. It's so bad. It's not that you want to quit. You just can't. While many of the demons members of Slipknot were facing were directly related to substance abuse, other members of the band began getting clean, but unfortunately, they faced other problems of their own. Guitarist Jim Root noted that he had gotten sober during the recording process of this album, but that he was also in a horrible state of mind. He said, I would lock myself in my bedroom because I couldn't handle talking to anybody. I had panic attacks so bad, my entire body would shut down and I had to isolate myself. We had just come off tour with Stone Sour. All of a sudden, we gotta do Subliminal Verses, and I gotta be around these people I haven't talked to for nearly 2 years. I had stopped doing drugs, I had stopped drinking, but my head was so f***ed up that I saw a psychiatrist to help me cope. I would pick up on things that weren't even real and turn them into something that it wasn't. I was so inwardly focused that I thought everything was about me. If Joey and Clown were talking, all of a sudden, in my head, they'd be talking shit about me. The Subliminal Verses recording process was one of the most tumultuous times during Corey Taylor's tenure within the band. His alcohol consumption had reached dangerous levels, and his brushes with attempts to take his own life had unfortunately not come to an end. Through the constant cycle of abuse during that time, Corey Taylor attempted to jump out of a hotel window at the Hyatt on Sunset Boulevard. Thankfully, his friend Tommy and his wife at the time were there to talk him down from jumping out of the 8-story window. The very next day, Corey Taylor made a decision that would ultimately save his life. He said, "We were in the studio for 3 months and I hadn't laid down a stitch of vocals that I could call good. I was just so frustrated that I was about to quit the band. I was on the phone buying a plane ticket. It took Clown to talk me down. He said, look, we're gonna figure this out." Clown has always been kind of a father figure for me in a weird way, even though we're only 4 years apart. I was going through a constant cycle of abuse, and it culminated with me at the Hyatt on Sunset, almost jumping out of an 8-story window. If my buddy Tommy and my wife hadn't been there to talk me down, I'd be dead.
Our fans are the greatest fans in the world, you know, and I do anything for them. And actually, I think our fans know that I would, you know, I mean, I'd literally have given the shirt off my back.
Unbeknownst to many, however, the beloved bassist was struggling with a crippling addiction behind the scenes. His substance issues were made public after a 2003 arrest, where an inebriated Gray was charged with drug possession after crashing his Porsche into another vehicle. The police found marijuana, 2 syringes, and cocaine in his car. In the coming years, Gray would continue to spiral out of control, with his wife Brenna regularly finding him passed out in their home or discovering used used needles he had hidden away. By May of 2010, Brenna would attempt to stage an intervention for her husband, reaching out to his bandmates in Slipknot for help. To her despair, despite frequently referring to themselves as a family within their songs, not one member of the band was willing to get involved. According to Brenna, one bandmate was playing golf just 2 minutes away from their home on the day of Gray's intervention, but still refused to attend. When Gray's family finally confronted him about his drug abuse, he fled to the Town Place Suites Hotel in Urbandale, Iowa. He never returned home, as only 2 days later, Gray was found dead in room 431. A hotel employee reported that there was a hypodermic needle found near Gray's body, and that several pills were scattered around the room. Autopsy results showed that Gray had died of an overdose of morphine and fentanyl. Gray's first and only daughter, October, was born just 3 months later. The bass player's death deeply affected Slipknot, particularly the band's founding drummer, Joey Jordison, who was never quite able to come to terms with the loss.
I'd just like to say that I miss my brother so much. This is very hard for me right now. I just want to say that I love you, Paul. So that's it.
Unfortunately for Jordison, the exact opposite would be true, as a few years later, Slipknot would fire the drummer via email without so much as the courtesy of a face-to-face meeting. Fans immediately began to turn on Slipknot, which is evident from the comments on metal news websites from that time. "You can't replace Joey," wrote one fan. "It's going to be hard to find anyone near close to him that plays with that passion that makes Slipknot," with another simply commenting, "No Joey equals no Slipknot." For years, there was no clear explanation for Jordison's departure from the band, leading fans to worry that drug use may have been a factor. Like Paul Gray, Jordison had a history of addiction. He had also gained a significant amount of weight, causing concern among fans that he might be struggling with alcoholism as well. Corey Taylor would only ignite further speculation when asked if Jordison's dismissal was related to substance abuse during a 2014 interview with Metal Hammer. "He's just in a place in his life right now that's not where we are," replied Taylor. "There's only so far that I can give an explanation." After years of silence, Jordison revealed in June of 2016 that, towards the end of his time in Slipknot, he began suffering from transverse myelitis, a neurological disease that causes inflammation in the spinal cord, and robbed him of his ability to play drums. The drummer elaborated that his bandmates mistook his illness for drug addiction, which led to him getting kicked out of the band. However, despite Jordison's denial, medical research has shown that transverse myelitis can arise as a complication of addiction to heroin and cocaine, further pointing to drug abuse problems with Jordison. Things took a tragic turn on July 26, 2021, when a 911 call was made outside of Jordison's home by his ex-girlfriend, Amanda Victoria. She stated that Jordison's family had not heard from him in days and described him as, quote, "a really bad alcoholic with health issues." In the most emotional part of the call, Amanda stated that when she entered the house to check on Jordison, she was immediately greeted by a foul smell that led her to believe that he was dead and had been for some time. When law enforcement finally arrived, her worst fears were confirmed. Joey had passed away alone, and no one was sure when. He was only 46. Days later, Jordison's bandmates in his most recent musical project, Sinsanum, would all but confirm that substance abuse issues were a contributing factor in his death. Writing in an official statement, "Joey also had his demons, and nothing hurts more than knowing we did everything in our power to help and couldn't get through to him." Slipknot would pay tribute to both Joey Jordison and Paul Gray at the end of their Knotfest Iowa set a few months later, with Corey Taylor stating that the band wanted to make sure fans knew that, although Jordison was gone, he was still a part of the Slipknot family, and always would be. The same could not be said for former Slipknot percussionist Chris Fane, who had the most controversial exit from the band, and single-handedly exposed the group's shady business practices to the world. In March of 2019, Fane had allegedly discovered the existence of several Slipknot business entities through which Clown and Corey Taylor were taking in more money than the rest of the band, and subsequently filed a lawsuit against them, claiming that he had been told that the band's profits were being split equally among all members, which was consistent with the band's portrayal of its 9 members as a family. However, the band's manager, Rob Shore, would state that Chris Chris was merely an employee and not a shareholder, owner, or member of any business entity related to Slipknot. Shore further revealed that the only controlling members of the band were Clown and Corey Taylor, indicating that the band is now more of a business than a brotherhood, and fans were shocked. Corey Taylor and the rest of Slipknot are money-hungry assholes, wrote one fan. They preach empty words of being a family, but show who they really are when money gets involved. Joey and Chris are two perfect examples. The situation became even more heartbreaking when, after Slipknot fired Fane, an old interview resurfaced where Fane disclosed that he had been having problems with his bandmates since the beginning of his time with the group.
To understand Slipknot back then is really difficult because it's like such mental abuse. That was pretty much the hazing part for me. Never getting any love from the guys at all. They wouldn't let me record. Like halfway through the record, they just wouldn't let me record on any of the songs, and it was just a really hard time.
Fane eventually settled his lawsuit against Slipknot and retreated from the public eye.
I kind of laid on the couch for a while, and the VMAs were on. It was the year that Faith No More first played, and it kind of re-energized my whole will to make music. They really kind of got me up off my ass, and that's when I started writing again and started kind of, making music again.
A show where musicians seek to reconcile their troubled pasts. It was on this program that Taylor would make a shocking revelation about his childhood.
I was by someone in the neighborhood. He was this 16-year-old kid, and he would invite me over to his house to play music. And one day, it became something else. And I didn't tell anybody for a long time because he threatened to hurt me, threatened to hurt my mom. He ended up burning his house down. They fled in the night. It was kind of crazy. Mental health, ego, entitlement, the whole 9 yards, culminating in a very, very real, very near relapse that I'm just doing the best for me right now, and it's a long road, and I don't know what's at the end of it, but I look forward to it. I have gratitude for it, and I hope you can show me some patience.
Fans immediately expressed their concern for Taylor's health, with comments that included, "I'm actually shocked by how rough he looks here, extremely tired and gaunt. He sounds rough too." With another writing, "Look, I don't want to see another of our legends take themselves out like Cornell, Cobain, Bennington, Staley, and others. If he recognizes the path he was going and needs to be isolated from the spotlight to heal that shit, let him." Taylor had previously spoken on the self-termination of fellow rock musician Chester Bennington, who was found hanging in his Southern California home on July 20th, 2017.
He killed himself, right?
Yeah.
You have any idea why?
He fought what a lot of us fight, which is that serious depression, that heavy depression. Unless you've walked in those shoes, you don't understand the pain, the weight of kind of carrying that along. And there's no right way to deal with it. There's no universal fix-all, so you spend your whole life trying to find what works for you.
For now, fans will continue to root for the singer, encouraging him to summon the strength to climb out of the darkness like he has so many times before. It was Corey Taylor himself, however, who said it best.
Nothing on this planet is worth going away for. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. There is always a way out.
Hey you, don't miss out our next video. Hit that subscribe button for exclusive videos and join our awesome community and enjoy. Subscribe now.